We at Mind in Bradford are supporting Root Out Racism, the West Yorkshire and Harrogate Health and Care Partnership's anti-racism movement. I'm Masira and I am the SMI Programme Manager here at Mind in Bradford, and today I'm actually going to read out a piece about my experiences of mental health as a South Asian female in regards to generational trauma, tokenism, belonging, difference, commonality, and the importance of people taking responsibility to educate themselves around South Asian heritage and mental health. So I am not one to shy away from a difficult conversation or to not utilise the privileges that I actually have and be the voice for topics I feel so passionate about. And I'm really, really passionate about mental health. But when I started writing about this, I actually found it really, really difficult. Well, why? Because there's just so much that we need to discuss. How can I, one South Asian female from West Yorkshire, be a flag bearer for a whole region? How can one piece of writing or one blog some of the experiences of people from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan, Afghanistan, Kashmir, and all the other regions that I've probably not even spoken about? Honestly, I can't, this blog can't. Do I begin by discussing generational trauma, ancestral baggage, systemic racism, stigma, discrimination, identity crisis, the need for culturally appropriate support, or do I actually dance around the issue at hand? Well, no. All I can do and what I attempt to do is highlight my experiences with mental health in the South Asian community, because I've worked with and for the communities of Bradford for the last 7 years. And doing so, I can either inspire people, I can empower people, or bore people, whichever one you want to have, you can have. Now, let me just start by saying that mental illnesses do exist for people in South Asian communities, and that's a fact. 1 in 4 of us will suffer from mental illness at some point in our lives. And our recent survey, a survey that Mind in Bradford had carried out with people across Bradford, Airedale, Wharfdale and Craven, showed that many more people were feeling isolated and feeling anxious because of the pandemic, because of COVID and everything else that has come with it. I can share how mental illness, unfortunately, is generally frowned upon in all communities. You don't experience stigma for your mental illness or for ill mental well-being if you have brown skin like me. But what is true is that there are additional barriers that exist if you're from a South Asian community. Barriers that include but are not limited to language, lack of understanding of cultural norms and expectations, not knowing how to work the system if you're from a South Asian community, or sometimes it's the resistance from others that are in services that serve the community to really kind of understand the customs and learn the customs that exist within the South Asian community. So one of the examples, or some of the examples, are family, how important elders are in our society, the concept of, upholding honour, izzat, house celebrations and mournings or weddings, janazas. They're all community gatherings, they're community efforts. Now, these are sometimes definitely good because, we've got the community rallying around us, there's always a party going on, and you can definitely have a support mechanism. But they can be bad at times as well. Now, the big thing is that, people from South Asian communities may actually feel like they don't belong, and they'll never belong in Britain. I've had lots of conversations around that. Now, all the things I've just discussed, all the factors, they can stop a person from accessing support that is so desperately needed. And now, my psychological background would probably say that this is because of the trauma that our ancestors faced. When our grandparents, great-grandparents, even parents came to the UK for the first time, we weren't able to show weakness. You don't have the time to reflect upon our sadness, our distress, because we had to survive. We had to fight, we had to defeat, we had to safeguard ourselves from racism, but also safeguard our actual belonging, our right to stay, survival in terms of finances. We had to do all of that. So we didn't always have the time to think about actually how are we feeling, are things okay? Now this is something, a trait that I think has definitely passed down to South Asians in general. Well, the biggest question might be that what helps break down these barriers? Well, it's the same thing I think that helps all people. We all want to be heard, we want to be listened to, we want to be validated. Now that sounds really simple, and it is simple, but it's also really complicated. Now, when we're with a person that is from a different culture, whether it's South Asian or otherwise, ask them about their culture, want to learn about their culture, want to understand, but I'd also say research yourself. too often the onus is placed upon those that are underrepresented in societies to educate others about their culture. Why can't we do that ourselves? Why can't we look into different cultures? Read into pertinent issues such as systemic racism, read into generational trauma, learn about how different people from different cultures celebrate events, and also don't be afraid to join in. Parties are always a good thing because to join in. And I found that one thread that connects us all as human beings is our craving to connect. We crave connection, we crave belonging, we crave hope. And I really hope that we can all do that and we can learn to do that. There are similarities that connect us all together. We just have to find them. We have to want to understand one another and not only want there to be a difference, we actually need to be the difference. We as individuals need to be the difference that we want to see in the world. Now here at Mind in Bradford, we celebrate differences, we celebrate cultures, and we support all those that are struggling with their mental health. Not just for the root out racism, but for every month of the year.